The streets were crowded that Saturday afternoon, a sea of people moving in every direction, absorbed in their own worlds. Among them, she wandered, an elegant woman in her early 40s, dressed impeccably, yet her eyes held a faraway look, a confusion that made her seem out of place in the bustling city. People passed her without a second glance, too busy with errands, shopping bags, or conversations to notice the disoriented figure standing silently on the corner, staring at the bright storefronts and flashing billboards. She wasn't panicked, exactly. Just lost. Not in the literal sense, though she had no idea where she was, but lost in the overwhelming press of the city, the noise, the crowds, the mundane chaos of everyday life. A beggar received more attention than she did. Street performers drew larger audiences. Yet here she was, alone, invisible in a way that should have been impossible for someone so striking. Most people assumed she was a tourist, a wealthy woman who had wandered too far. Others probably thought she was eccentric, or perhaps a socialite too caught up in her own world to notice the city around her. But no one approached her. No one offered help, guidance, or even a glance of curiosity. The world moved on, leaving her in quiet isolation. That's when Jamie appeared. Jamie, 16, wiry and restless, had been running errands for his mother. He was small, overlooked himself, often dismissed by adults in the same way people ignored her. But there was something about noticing things, about seeing beyond appearances, that set him apart. And today, his sharp eyes caught her. She was standing near the crosswalk, hesitant, unsure of which way to go, clutching a designer handbag that looked far too expensive for someone who seemed so disoriented. Jamie approached cautiously, instinctively, because something about her seemed fragile. Vulnerable. Human. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice light but earnest. She turned toward him, startled, as though she hadn't realized anyone was paying attention. I don't know," she admitted softly, her voice tinged with embarrassment. "I'm a bit lost." Jamie smiled reassuringly. "Where are you trying to go?" She hesitated, clearly weighing whether to trust this stranger. Finally, she spoke, almost whispering, I think I'm supposed to be somewhere, but I can't remember where." Jamie extended his hand. "Then come with me. I'll help you figure it out." It was such a simple gesture, so small, yet it was the first act of kindness she had received all day. She glanced at his hand, then slowly placed hers in his. It was warm, grounding, comforting in a way that made the world seem a little less overwhelming. As they walked together, Jamie noticed details about her that others had ignored: the subtle scent of expensive perfume, the flawless tailoring of her clothes, the quiet elegance in the way she moved. She carried herself with a poise that suggested a life of privilege, yet her eyes betrayed confusion and humanity. "Are you rich?" Jamie asked suddenly, unable to resist the thought that had crossed his mind. She laughed softly, a sound that was more surprised than amused. "Yes," she admitted, her voice quiet, almost shy. "I am. A billionaire, actually." Jamie's eyes widened. "Wait, seriously?" "Yes," she said, smiling faintly, but then her expression sobered. "But that doesn't matter right now. Being rich doesn't mean you always know where to go, or who to trust." Jamie nodded thoughtfully. "Yeah, I guess money doesn't make everything easy. But it does make people notice you, usually." "That's just it," she said, glancing around at the bustling crowd that had ignored her. "Today, everyone pretended I didn't exist. Maybe because they thought I was eccentric, or maybe they didn't want to bother. But you stopped and asked me if I was okay. That means more than you know." Jamie shrugged, modest but proud. "I notice people. That's what I do. Besides, I've been ignored plenty of times too. I know how it feels." She looked at him, really looked, and something unspoken passed between them, a recognition of shared humanity. She had billions in the bank, but it had been a lonely existence, filled with people who saw her fortune before they saw her. And he was 16, unnoticed, overlooked, yet brave enough to offer help to someone older, more powerful, and lost. They wandered through the streets, asking directions, checking maps, and slowly, the woman's sense of disorientation began to fade. Jamie guided her to a familiar landmark, a hotel she often visited, and she felt a rush of relief she hadn't experienced all day. "Thank you," she said sincerely, turning to him. "You didn't have to do this. Most people would have walked right past me." Jamie smiled, a little embarrassed but proud. "I guess I didn't want to. Everyone deserves someone to notice them, even billionaires." She laughed, genuinely this time, a sound that seemed to lighten the air around them. "You're remarkable," she said. "I've met a lot of people in my life. CEOs, celebrities, politicians. But you're the one who saw me today." Jamie shrugged again. "I just saw you. That's all." They exchanged a brief handshake, then she handed him a card with a number, her smile warm but tinged with mystery. "Call me sometime," she said. "Not because you helped me today, but because you reminded me what it feels like to be noticed for who I am, not my money." He nodded, slipping the card into his pocket. "I'll remember that." She turned and walked into the hotel, the city swallowing her once again in its endless tide of people and lights. But Jamie knew something had changed, not just for her, but for him. That brief connection, that moment of recognition, had bridged worlds. A lost billionaire and a noticing teen had met in the middle, and in that simple act of holding a hand, both had been reminded of what truly matters, seeing people for who they are. And for the first time in a long time, she felt truly seen.